Welcome to Healthcare Sucks
Hi, Brian. It's
Live.
great to have you with us today. China is planning to impose a controversial new national security law on Hong Kong, banning, quote, subversion and separatism. The move was announced at a session of China's rubber stamp parliament, the National People's Congress in Beijing. Critics in Hong Kong say the law would end the city's autonomy, but the city's government says freedoms will not be effective and that it will comply with the law.
Some 3,000 delegates from all over China have gathered for the National Congress in Beijing. Normally lasting 2 weeks, the annual Congress has been shortened this year to just one because of the coronavirus pandemic. So it's straight down to business.
Notice none of his team
The
have
National
masks
Committee chair
on.
says new security laws for Hong Kong will be discussed on day one. To ensure the policy of one country, two systems is firmly upheld over the long
See,
term,
only the back
we will
people have
strengthen
masks.
the sense of mission and political responsibility of National Committee members representing Hong Kong and Macau, and firmly support the improvement of systems and mechanisms for enforcing China's constitution and the basic laws of those two special administrative regions. Beijing has long considered limiting opposition movements in Hong Kong. But the issue
See, there he is, the
intensified
man
after
himself.
anti-government protests last year, when pro-democracy activists took to Hong Kong streets to protest a number of proposed changes to the city's laws. The demonstrators believe Beijing is chipping away at the territory's unique rights to assembly and free speech. Just this month, a number of Hong Kong lawmakers were dragged from Parliament amid a row about a Chinese national anthem bill that would criminalize disrespect of the song. On Thursday, many legislators said the Central Communist Party was tightening its grip on Hong Kong.
I just want to say to the international community that this is the end of Hong Kong. This is the end of one country, two systems. Make no mistake about it, that Beijing, the Central People's Government, has completely breached its promise to the Hong Kong people.
Any new laws coming from Beijing are almost certain to spark more protests in Hong Kong and attract attention from the wider world.
Let's get the view now from Hong Kong. We're happy to be joined by Joshua Wong. He's one of Hong Kong's leading pro-democracy activists. Good day to you and hello to Hong Kong. What's your reaction to what we're hearing from Beijing from this proposed new legislation?
Chilling effect is generated by Beijing, and the national security law that's suggested by Beijing to impose in Hong Kong, they totally violate on procedural justice and even hope to bypass the legislature in Hong Kong once National People Congress announced, and Hong Kong police or the secret agent can use this to arrest people or prosecute people or even extradite Hong Kongers from Hong Kong to China, and maybe the next new Xiaobo will not exist in China but from Hong Kong.
Is that what you're expecting? Are you expecting, Joshua, Beijing to begin arresting people after it imposes this law, should it do so?
The number of arrested protesters since last summer are 8,000, and even more than the number of prisoners or inmates in Hong Kong right now. So chilling effect is being generated, and no doubt at all they will continue crackdown on Hong Kong people that fight for democracy and freedom. But I just hope to let the world to know that the national security law is not only suitable for Hong Kong citizens, even travelers or foreigners in Hong Kong, they are also allowed to be arrested with such evil law.
And does that mean they could be too extradited to the mainland?
Yes, and that's the key point. And last year, we opposed the extradition law that's really controversial and result in 2 million people took to the street. But later on, in 2020, Beijing didn't plan to impose the extradition law. They just planned to announce it in Beijing instead of go through the legislation process in Hong Kong.
Joshua, the Hong Kong government's saying it will fully cooperate with Beijing on this national security law. What do you make of that?
No, not surprised at all. Beijing, Carrie Lam or other Hong Kong government officials are just the puppet of Beijing or the loyalists of communist authorities. And now is how they eroded on universal value that we all believe in, and not only affecting citizens in Hong Kong, but even any diplomats, any foreigners or businessmen travel to Hong Kong, they might be extradited to China without any legitimate reason. One country, two system, after the umbrella movement a few years ago, might result in one country, one and a half system. But now, right now, is the era of one country, one system. But Hong Kongers must take back to the street again on June.
One country, one system, that would mean an effective end to Hong Kong as we know it today.
That's the nightmare that we must need to face, and we must stand up and against it. And Beijing imposed the national security in law. I think that is not about the security of the nation. It's just about the security of Communist Party of China.
You just called for people to take to the streets. Is that what you see happening in the days ahead? Will people be taken to the streets? And isn't there the concern that they will be arrested then and potentially extradited, the protesters, to the mainland?
No one could ensure when will the national security law pass in the National People Congress. So before this law pass in Beijing, we must gather people on street again.
What are you going to be doing, Joshua?
No matter mobilize people, take to the street, continue our international advocacy. And more important thing is we hope to let the global community to stand with Hong Kong, just like how fellow global community stakeholders stand with Hong Kong in 2019.
You're looking for help from abroad. Are you thinking that America, Donald Trump has said he would react very strongly, the U.S. president, should Beijing enact this law? Are you hoping for help from the U.S.?
Actions speak louder than words. Support Hong Kong is not a matter of left or right. It's just a matter of right or wrong. And we call for allies around the world to support Hong Kong people against the national security law that erodes on fundamental and basic freedom. So we really wish no matter US or European country could impose the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act or Global Magnitsky Act to enhance the sanction mechanism and let Beijing to realize that kowtow to China is not the only way out.
Joshua Wong for us today.
And with that, this is Healthcare Sucks. I just wanted to catch up on that. First of all, did you notice in the first part of it who was wearing the masks and who wasn't? All of the superior leaders, men, in other words, the evil aka China regime that launched the Wuhan bioweapon, aka act of war, were not wearing masks because, again, it was biologically engineered in the Wuhan lab. It was released, and they already had vaccination and antiviral. None of those people that were not wearing masks, they are the elites. They have already been giving an anti-suppressant to the disease, a vaccination, and it works for them. They knew that upon releasing it on the world. This is no more than an act of war. Now, in their own country, they're stepping it up and trying to take over, re-annex Hong Kong. And they're not waiting. They're greedy little fingers, and Hong Kong's government's going to cave in. And like they said, no more freedom for Hong Kong. If you travel over there, it's like going to China now. They can arrest you, and if you're media, you're toast. So something to think about, guys. And don't ever forget where this Wuhan came from. This was an act of war, plain and simple. And they must be made to pay for their actions. And with that, this is Healthcare Sucks, coming to you with an update report on the Hong Kong event. Over and out.